Hi everybody, it's Lynne Forsythe from the Swirly Doos Education Design Team, and I'm going to show you today how I made this month's technique tag. And isn't she a beauty? Basically what we're going to do is I'm going to show you how I created the paper that I used to cut these tags with. And it's also the paper that I used on my technique kit box. And I get to girl this up a little bit because my box basically I made for my son, and it had to stay very manly, and there was no way I could put flowers on that. As much as I try, yeah, no, that's not gonna work. So without further ado, let's get down to how I made this tag. Now before I begin showing you how I created the paper, I'm going to be a little mad scientist here, and I have some concoctions going. What I've done is taken a bit of the Studio Claudine Helmuth gesso and these wonderful, yummy primary elements from Creative Imaginations. Beautiful mica in a little container here. And I take the end of my tweezers, dip it in here, and pour it over there. So I have two of those for each one of the larger ones, and then only one dipping of the smaller one. So I'll mix those together, and then I'll show you how I created the paper. Before I go about this process of showing you how I created this paper, I want to give credit where credit is due. And the inspiration for this came from my fellow design team member, Heidi Kelly. She had a really cool tutorial up on the Prima blog, and after watching it, I was so inspired by it that I just couldn't even wait to create. So here we go. I've done my mad scientist work over here. I have my colored gesso, and now I'm just going to use a little scraper tool. This is put out by Ranger, or you can use a credit card or whatever. And I'm just going to take this and I'm just going to run it across my paper. And then we'll dry this a little bit and add the next color. Now we have to remember that when we're creating this, this is not going to be what it ends up being. We're going to cut this up into little pieces. So, you know, don't be so concerned about, oh, this isn't right or this isn't right, because we have a whole lot of area that we've got to cover. And then it's going to be parceled out into little tiny pieces. All right, I'm going to go with my next color, and I'm actually going to turn my paper this time. And once again, I'm just going to make streaks. Okay, and we're going to dry that. I took some of the various papers that were in the main kit, and I just tore strips from them. And in order to get the white edging, which I have here, you have to tear towards yourself. And kind of here's an example of this. So when you tear towards yourself, you're going to expose that white edge. Now, do not lose yourself in the details on this, because once again, these are going to be cut up into little pieces and you're not going to see this. We're just trying to get a good smattering of the different papers. Now I'm going to apply my papers to the background paper using multimedium. Now while I'm adhering these down to the paper, I am not being overly careful that I'm getting the multimedium all the way out at the edges, because it's kind of a cool look that they don't all stick down. So I'm just kind of running the multimedium right down the center of the paper so that even the edges can curl. So now I have all the torn paper adhered to the background paper, And I'm going to use some of this leftover hodgepodge mix that I made, and I'm just going to make some more painty marks over the top of my papers. Okay, not too much, but just enough so that we've got some subtle painty marks. Then I'm going to just take this little mason jar and I'm going to kind of roll it around in here. Now I'm going to make some circles. So I've got some little random circles on here. Now I'm going to dry the whole thing. Next, I'm going to use this silk paint. This is Emperor's Gold, and I'm going to dip my paintbrush in here, and then I'm going to splatter it all over my paper. And probably all over my house. If you get some globs that are a little too big for your liking, I just kind of patted them off. Okay, so now we have some good gold smattering going on. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to spritz it with spray. I chose a brown, so I'm actually just going to go around my edges. Can you see this? And I just sprayed it along the top, and I'm going to let it run down the paper. And I'm going to do that around all four sides. All right. Oh, it's looking good. So we'll dry that now. So here we have our own handmade paper. Now, I cut this into little strips, and that's what I use to cover my box in my Technique kit. But I'm going to actually cut this up into tags, and I will create our Technique tag for this month. I got three strips of paper in which to create my tags out of. Now you're going to want to make sure, once again, learn from my mistakes, that this is good and dry. And I actually flipped it over and cut from the back side because there are so many different little pieces here. And then if you see some that are kind of lifting up, you can go ahead and adhere those down if that's what you would like to do. Okay, so I came across a really fun thing. Once again, it came out of a huge error. When I was creating the box and had it all done, I thought, oh my gosh, how cool would that be to use one of the stencils and put some black gesso through it and all of that. Well, when I did it, the gesso just like smeared all underneath the stencil. And I freaked out because I'm like, oh my gosh, once again, I've ruined something. So got out my handy dandy water sprayer and sprayed it, and it was a fabulous, way cool technique. So what we're going to do is I got this little fan brush. We're going to take some black gesso. Now, I have gone around the edges of my tag with the Distress It All because I love that huge torn up look. So I'm just going to get some black around the edges of my tag. And then I'm going to take my handy dandy water spritzer and I'm going to spritz the gesso. And then I'm going to take a cloth and I'm going to kind of tab this off of here. And I love what it does to the tag. So we'll dry this. So just to show you the difference, here is the very yummy tag by itself. Here it is with the black gesso watered down, and oh my gosh, how much fun is this? And then you can even kind of roll some of these edges. But oh my gosh, it just makes that whole thing pop. So to put the rest of the tag together, I have this piece of burlap that I have kind of crinkled up and sprayed. We'll just put some multi-medium, slap some of that down on the tag. Like that. And I created a bow, and I'm just going to staple that down because it is rather poofy. Got my handy dandy little stapler here. So we'll staple this down onto the tag. Now, I've sprayed my beautiful Kaiser flowers with Solar Gold Radiant Rain Shimmering Mist, and we're going to put that right on there. Now, I have to tell you, I'm so bad. I stole parts from the Prima flowers to do this. I took it off the back of the flower. All right, and also something, don't lose yourself if you don't have a flower, you know, that they're the right color or what you wanted to use, because I got all these beautiful flowers in the kit, but they were all the same color. So I have just spritzed them. These flowers were all this color. So I spritzed them with some brown, and I spritzed them with some blue, and I left one plain. And let's see. I have this lovely Prima bling. Which will adhere that in the background. And I'll come back with the finished product.